protesters rallied in Sydney and Melbourne today in support of the Beijing Olympics and China's Tibet policy. And the Chinese President Hu Jintao has defended the crackdown on unrest in Tibet, despite worldwide anti-China protests. In Africa, a Kenyan Nobel Peace Prize laureate has dropped out of the Olympic torch relay, adding her voice to the protests.
Touchdown in Tanzania. On the African leg of its world tour, the Olympic torch got a traditional Maasai welcome. Once again, the torch is heavily guarded after protesters disrupted the relay in Europe and the US. Olympic officials weren't expecting any trouble in Tanzania, but as a precaution, the African relay route has been shortened. And a Kenyan Nobel Peace Laureate has pulled out of the torch relay because of concerns about China's Tibet policy.
If only China would give the Dalai Lama the opportunity to have a dialogue, as he has been requesting, so that the crisis in Tibet can be resolved. But when the whole world is talking, surely China will listen.
So far, there's no sign of that, despite ongoing protests. In India, Tibetan exiles and activists rallied against China's crackdown on Tibet, staging mock scenes of alleged Chinese brutality. Here, pro-Tibet demonstrations are planned for the Canberra leg of the Olympic torch relay. But in Sydney and Melbourne today, Chinese protesters marched in support of Beijing and against what they claim is anti-China bias in the Western media.
Stop telling lies! Stop telling lies!
In the US, Tibet's exiled spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, drew 50,000 people to a Seattle sports stadium, where he spoke about compassion and the need for dialogue and non-violence.
Non-violent dialogue. That's the only way.
The Dalai Lama made no direct reference to Tibet, but in New Delhi, his special envoy tasked with pursuing dialogue with China has called for pre-Olympics progress and an end to Chinese repression.
It is very important that, before the Olympics, that there be some progress, so that, this kind of repressive measure in Tibet could be avoided.
But China's President Hu Jintao has defended the crackdown on Tibetan unrest, insisting it's an internal affair and not a human rights issue. And Chinese Olympic officials have warned that world leaders will only hurt their own athletes if they snub the opening ceremony of the Beijing Games. Vesna Nazor, World News Australia.
The former revolutionary